Though he worked extensively as an engraver and as a designer of woodcuts, Dürer made relatively few etchings in his long career. The largest of these was Landscape with Cannon, made in 1518. The date can be seen above the artist's monogram in the top left-hand corner of the print. Halberdiers, standard bearers, and figures in Turkish and Hungarian costumes stand in the foreground, on either side of a large cannon which bears the arms of Nuremberg. The print was made at a time of conflict between the Holy Roman Empire and the Ottoman Empire, though there is some doubt about whether the figure in Turkish costume is an envoy or a captive. The weapon looks a little unsteady, mounted on its metal-rimmed wooden wheels, but while its design was somewhat outdated by the time Dürer made the print, we can still imagine it wreaking havoc on a distant enemy. Immediately behind the cannon, we see the pitched roof of a barn, studded with dormer windows, and the enormous, gnarled trunk of an ancient tree, twisting up to the sky, cut off by the edge of the plate. If we let our eyes wander to the right, Dürer leads us through a village scene, complete with houses, a steepled church, and an open pasture, towards a distant view of hills and calm water, where the landscape meets the horizon. Lines in an engraving are made by hand, and their technique requires years of practice to control the engraving tool. Making an etching is, in some ways at least, closer to making a drawing with a pencil on a piece of paper. The artist covers a metal plate with a thin layer of wax, and then draws through the wax with a needle to expose the metal beneath. When the plate is immersed in acid, the wax protects the surface of the metal, but the acid bites into the lines where the artist has drawn. When the lines have been bitten to the required depth, the whole plate is covered with ink. Excess ink is then wiped off the surface with a rag, so that ink remains only below the surface in the etched lines. Dampened paper is then placed over the plate, and plate and paper are passed between the heavy rollers of a printing press. The paper is pushed into the etched grooves and picks up the ink, while the cleaned surface of the metal prints as white. It isn't clear why Dürer abandoned etching after so few attempts, particularly when we look at this virtuoso print. But all of his etchings were done on iron plates, rather than the copper plates he used for engravings, and some of the prints show signs of rust, produced by the contact between the dampened paper and the metal. That may have been enough to put him off the technique. But whatever his reasons may have been for making no more etchings, Dürer's Landscape with Cannon is a tour de force of the printmaker's art.